In lesson 4.2, we talked about congruent sides and congruent angles in one triangle. For the rest of topic 4, we're going to talk about congruent triangles themselves. In lesson 4.3, we want to introduce the idea of angles and sides in one triangle actually being congruent to angles and sides in a second triangle, and then talk about the reasons why that's true. Looking at the two triangles given in this picture, we know that triangle ABC would be congruent to triangle DEF. When we write it in this order, we want to match the angles and match the corresponding sides. For example, if we break down angles, the order of the letters matter. If we take a look at angle A, that's this angle over here on the left side triangle. That matches with angle D. Notice that has the same arc. So we would say angle A is congruent to angle D. Going up to the top, angle B has that double arc, and so does angle E on the right triangle. Therefore, angle B is congruent to angle E. Without making too much more of a mess, that third angle, angle C on the bottom right, is congruent to angle F. Again, when we talk about angles, we can use just one letter, or we could actually use all three. Like angle BAC would be the same as angle A. Now, when we convert from angles to sides, we have to be careful. Sides need two letters. It doesn't matter the order, but it needs to have two actual letters. So as we think about the sides and how they compare to each other, using two letters in one triangle, side AB, that would be this side on the left, that matches and is congruent to side DE, the side length on the right. So we would say AB is congruent to DE. We could also say that BC on that right-hand side is congruent to EF. BC is congruent to EF. And then those two bottom segments are equal. So we could say AC is congruent to DF. Now, as we look at two triangles, we may not have all 6 parts marked. Our goal is to find enough markings in a specific order that will prove the triangles are in fact congruent to each other. Flip it over and we'll talk about the first list of reasons why. 4.3 is titled Proving and Applying SAS and SSS. Now the S's stand for the length of a side and the A stands for the measure of an angle. So down below in our concept summary, we have a breakdown of two versions. If we look at what's called SAS, that's theorem 4.3. And in SAS, two sides in one triangle and two sides in the other triangle match. And then the angle that's in between them would also be congruent. So it's side, angle, side. If you take a look at our first triangle, here's what I mean. See how there's side AB, then there's an angle, and then there's side BC on the right. So that's S, A, and then S. Now over in the other triangle, DE is a side with two arcs, or with two dashes, and E is the angle, and then side EF is the other corresponding side. If you have an SAS grouping for each triangle, that's enough to prove that the triangles are congruent. And that means all the other parts that correspond would also match up, and they would be the same measures. Now, over on the right, there's a different set of options. Theorem 4.5 is called SSS, or side, side, side. Now notice on the pictures, none of the angles are marked. It's truly grouping all the sides together. We have JK with a double dash, and we have MN. Those two sides are equal to each other. We have KL, and we have NP. And then on the bottom of the first triangle, we have JL with 3 dashes, and up on the top, we have MP, 3 dashes. So these triangles are scalene, but if we can match up corresponding sides and all three sides are congruent to each other, that's enough to prove the triangle's congruent. Now, sometimes we're going to have these things marked already for us, which is pretty easy. But other times we have to prove why it's true. So we'll have to figure out which options are going to be the easier options and which options we have to give our reasons why. And then there's theorem 4.4. It's kind of in between 4.3 and 4.5. If you have congruent triangles and you've only marked three things, like side, angle, side, or all three sides, SSS, there are parts that you haven't actually marked yet. And this theorem says if two triangles are congruent, then each pair of corresponding sides is congruent and each pair of corresponding angles is congruent. So this is called corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Get to know CPCTC and what that stands for. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. We're going to use this CPCTC definition quite a bit in the rest of topic 4. Let's try a few examples. Given two triangles with two pairs of sides congruent and the included angles congruent, verify that the triangles are congruent to each other. So in that first triangle from RST, R to S is a side, angle S is an angle, and then S to T is another side. So we have two sides and the included angle. That forms that SAS grouping. From X to Y, there's that double dash. Angle Y is the angle, and from Y to Z is the single dash. There's another side angle side grouping. Verifying that the two triangles are congruent would mean we're either applying theorem 4.3 up above or theorem 4.5. Well, in this case, because we have that included angle, we would say yes by the SAS theorem. Side angle side. That proves the triangle's congruent. To write a statement of congruence, we're just going to use the triangles instead of sides and angles. That means we're going to write a triangle symbol, and then I'm just going to go RST, kind of keeping an alphabetical order. Triangle RST, all the parts would match up. R would match with X. S is upside down matching with Y. And then T would match with Z. That's our statement of congruence. Pretty simple to write that out. So here's a question that ties into topic 3. What rigid motion or composition of rigid motions shows that triangle UVW maps to triangle XYZ? So if I want U, then V, then W, U has to go all the way over to X, V has to go to Y, and then W just goes right over to Z. A rigid motion is like a reflection, a rotation, a translation, or a glide reflection. Well, it kind of looks to me, if we drew a line right in the middle, that we could fold our paper over and angle U would match to X, V would match to Y, and W would match to Z, making the type of rigid motion simply a reflection. And that's all we had to do, was just kind of describe that rigid motion. And then all of a sudden we throw a pretty challenging question in here. It says, given that AB is parallel to CD and AB is congruent to CD, so two pieces of information right there. How can you show that angle B is congruent to angle D? If we're trying to prove or show that angles are congruent, first we have to prove triangles. Oops, sorry about that. Get that out of there. Hang on, I'm losing my pen. There we go. Nope, did the same thing. Sorry. Here we go. First, sorry about that. Prove the triangles. And I can't even think of what I'm writing. There we go. Prove triangles congruent. We need three things. We need S and then A and then S, or we need S, S, and S. Looking at the picture, we already know that AB is equal or congruent to CD. It says that in the given information. That's a side. If we have parallel lines, another thing that we could mark is that from B to A to C, this angle right here, angle B to A to C, is congruent to angle D to C to A. That's this angle down here. Those are alternate interior angles. That's from topic 2. So things are going to be coming up that we've talked about in the past to help us with these triangles. So now we have a side and we have an angle. It looks like we're going to need another side. But if we want to look at the grouping, the side we want to show is segment AC. That would be that SAS order. Notice AC is part of the triangle on the bottom left, and it's part of the triangle on the top right. So we can say that AC is congruent to itself, which means we can then mark it on our picture. We learned from the last topic why something's congruent to itself. It's like looking in the mirror and seeing your reflection. So this would be the reflexive property. Who knew this was going to be so much work? Well, now we've got SAS in the bottom triangle and SAS in the top triangle. So we could now say triangle ADC, from A to D to C. That triangle is congruent to BCA because of side angle side. That's the theorem on the front. And once you prove triangles congruent, ultimately you can say anything else that you can mark because of that CP-CTC theorem, theorem 4.4. So then we can finally write angle B is congruent to angle D. I know, this is kind of tricky. And we would say by CP-CTC, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are going to be congruent. So we could put a double arc on D and a double arc on B. But it took quite a bit of work to get there. We won't always need to show so many things, but this time we had to. All right, let's keep moving on. In example 3, does X equal 92 degrees? If yes, how do you know? If no, why? Well, if we go and look at our pictures and zoom in, what I recognize is that we've got some corresponding side lengths marked. See how we have the we have the right-hand side on the top, right-hand side on the bottom with a single dash. Upside down, we've got that double dash on the top and the double dash on the bottom. And then it almost kind of looks like a hypotenuse, but not exactly. We've got that triple dash and the triple dash. That means the two triangles are congruent because of side, side, side. So we know that the triangles are congruent by SSS. And when triangles are congruent, then corresponding angles would be congruent. So here's ultimately the question, everybody. Is 92 a corresponding location with X? I think it is. If we drew a line going across like this, and we reflected, angle X would match with 92. So going back over to the left, does X equal 92? That answer would be yes. How do we know? By CP-CTC. Again, say it with me. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. I think we'll end with example 4. It says, which of the following pairs are congruent by SAS or SSS? So let's take a look at each grouping in more detail. On the top left example, I really zoomed in, didn't I? On the top left example, do you see how we have this side marked with this one, this bottom side marked with this left-hand side, and then this kind of over here on the right is congruent to this over here on the bottom right. So if we say which of the following pairs are congruent by SAS or SSS, this one would be congruent by SSS. All the sides in one triangle are congruent to all the sides in the other. Now, if we look right below it, watch what happens. I've got two side lengths marked and an angle, so let's see that comparison. I've got a side and a side, and then I have a second side right next to it, but my angle is not in between them. This means this is two sides and the angle's not in between. The problem with this is that there's not enough information to verify that the other angles and side would be the same. So these are not congruent triangles. And we'll talk about when the angle's on the outside later on in topic 4. Let's go up to the top right one. It might appear that these are two sides and that non-included angle, but let's check out the order. If I go my single dash and my single dash, the arc is right next to it. Do you guys see that? And then the double dash is on the other side. So if we look at that grouping, I've got side, angle, and side. The two sides are connected and the angle is marked in between them, with another side, angle, side on the right-hand triangle. Whoops, I just kind of zoomed that in by mistake. That means these two triangles are congruent by SAS. That order works for those two triangles. In that last example, what do you guys think? Is this SAS or SSS, or are neither of those an option for this grouping? Let's give it a whirl. I've got the dash and I've got a dash, and then I've got the angle right next to it, and my double dash is right on the other side. So again, we've got that SAS grouping and SAS grouping. These two triangles are in fact congruent by our theorem for SAS. So sometimes you'll have enough information to mark it, and sometimes we have to figure out the information that's possible to mark. Like our final question down below. It says, what additional information is needed to prove triangle ABC, or to show, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF by SAS? Well, let's take a look at the picture. I've got AB and I've got DE. So I've got one side. Then I have angle A and angle D. There's my angles. So if I want to do SAS, I need the side that's on the other side of my angle, if that makes any sense. So I would need this side AC to be congruent to this side DF. So to use SAS, we would need to know that AC is congruent to DF. That would be the additional information we would need. Then if we wanted to prove the triangle is congruent by SSS, what else would we need to know? Well, SSS means all three sides have to be corresponding. We would also then have to know that BC, which we need to give a triple dash to, matches up with EF, another triple dash. So to use SSS, we would also need to know that BC is congruent to EF. And we're going to pause there, let all of that sink in for lesson 4.3.